Welcome to another episode of 3000% Voltron Love. It's me, Mel, that Mako girl. Today I would like to touch on the inconsistencies of Season 8. A few of them. This might be a part 1 or something. I might revisit it. Okay. First off, I had to go back through Season 8 to make sure I got my point straight. So feel sorry for me. Just kidding, don't do that. And as painful as adventure it was, like the first time I watched Season 8, bluntly stated, this season still hurts my heart every single time I look at any of it, and not in the, that was so emotionally amazing and well done sort of way. Not by a long shot. It's actually kind of funny that the side of the fandom that complains so much about Season 7 are also a good number of the same ones who wound up hating that they demanded to be done in Season 8. Ironic, right? And no, I do not say that Season 8 is painful solely because of the shipping. Absolutely not. There is more to a show than shipping. I know, shock. To me, any media that shows character building stronger bonds, regardless of it being a friendship or more, only for it to vanish in the last season without any explanation story-wise, is a very callous and unfeeling move. And if the main reason was to revert focus back to selling toys to only boys and their daddies, the timing, with the sacrifice of lovable character development, leaves far more to be desired. As someone who has pleasantly rewatched the episodes of previous seasons multiple times, 5 so far, straight through, including binge watching a season a day for an entire week, yeah, that was me. The thought of going back to Season 8 for any reason causes me to cringe, and that is saying a lot. That is saying an awful lot. There used to be a theme of found family, strengthening bonds and becoming a team. There was a message about growing into your own individual and while accepting your faults to become better and overcome so much. There were no guarantees anyone on the team would survive, but they continued anyway. Most of them became friends. Some had their bond escalate to something more. But in Season 8, none of that mattered. Personalities no longer mattered. Bonds lost all meaning. Lance vowed Allura would have a place with him and the others as family. That she would have a place to belong if he had anything to say about it. Well, he may as well have just gone, bye! We'll build a statue after you! The Lance I've come to know would have offered to go with her instead of just letting her give up on her life like that. And since it had been mentioned, one of the proposed endings was for all of them to go with Allura and die with her. Yeah, it would have been sad, but triumphant at the same time. And it would have kept with the message of strong bonds and found family. But now, that powerful emotional message was destroyed for all the wrong reasons. Something that still confuses me to this day, the forced feelings of the Keith and Lance scenes. Granted, I've only fully gone through Season 8 once. There have been times I've gone through it a little bit to just make sure this particular thing happened or that particular thing did. Make sure I wasn't losing my mind. But I do remember those scenes felt very out of place throughout the seasons. It was nice to see them actually start to become friends, or something like friends compared to how they started out, especially on Lance's part. They were getting there. They were building it up. Despite us never being shown Lance actually, I don't know, apologizing to Keith for, you know, putting him down, constantly verbally degrading him for several seasons, and I dare someone to lie to me and tell me Lance was never meeting to Keith. But please explain to me why Lance ever bothered to seek out the one guy who had never had a significant other to talk about his girl problems to. And then later on, his girlfriend problems. What? Does that make sense? Lance could have easily asked Hunk, since he seemed to know how to ask a girl out at least. I mean, it's a start. Or he could have asked Sam, or I don't know, Shiro, about relationships. Instead, he actively looked around for Keith. Later on, when everyone leaves the room so Keith and Lance can have an optimistic private chat, it's only about Lance's girlfriend. In previous seasons, whenever a collective of characters would march off at the same time through a door, in narrative, it's to allow for some sort of intimate time between the characters left behind. If this scene was to be some sort of Keith and Lance relationship building, it failed. It failed! It almost felt like a joke, you know, in the sense of, yeah, they're in a room alone together, but they're just talking about Alora. From a writer's perspective, these scenes held absolutely no weight because they didn't lead to anything. It would have made much more sense if the reason Lance ever sought out Keith for a private conversation about relationship advice would be because he knew Keith was already in one. The person he'd be with is obvious. But I'll refrain from saying the, whoops, I sneezed. But if that were the case, it would fit that Lance would ask Keith then, and only then. And also ask Shiro. Another huge, what is happening moment for me was when Keith explicitly referred to his mother by name again. When he called her mom for the first time, it was a monumentous occurrence, okay? A huge development for him. But now it's non-existent? Is showing affection to your mother now a taboo in season 8? Newsflash. A male character showing any kind of affection for your parents, your friends, or a love interest is a downer for toy sales, it seems. Unless you and your girlfriend are defined by only a relationship now.
Sorry, I can't hear you over Alora and me being defined by only our relationship now.
Male characters need to be rugged and manly men, even if they lose their personalities in the process, Keith. Because don't you know, cardboard cutouts are all the world needs. And all that would have been fine had this show not kicked that shallow tactic to the curb for 7 seasons. Moving on. Zethrid and Ezor. I must go here. If Ezor were still alive, why didn't Aksha tell everyone aboard the Atlas she was there? And in addition to that, why were we never shown her whereabouts? There could have been a part that mirrored our first introduction to her back in season 3, where she materialized in and then back out. That told us she could make herself invisible. The impression I got was if she were alive, she was just hanging around the ship, pretending not to be noticed by anyone but Aksha, all because her girlfriend supposedly got mad at her. That displays a cowardice I have never seen Ezor to have. Having her and Zethrid's ship blown up in season 7 just rendered her being this mousy little fly on the wall now. No action? No trying to take over the Atlas? Her personality was stripped too because, oh wait, she was supposed to be dead. Now, when one thinks of her in this way, it really puts her and Zethrid's type of relationship in a subtle but also impactful light. It would be a tragic love story, but it would also have strengthened Zethrid, and those who might have only seen her as a brute, they could accept her in a new appreciation, you know? Her heart would have been recognized as something dear and vulnerable, just like anyone else's. It would have been an effective reveal, I think. And you know, a loving relationship in media doesn't need to be full-blown, heavily in-your-face blatant. It doesn't need to be that way in real life either. Subtlety works just fine and can go a long way. And if a few people are unable to see the relationship going on that has plenty of actual support and build-up over time, that is not the fault of the shows. In the case of Ezor being alive, however, this puts her and Zethrid in a very unsettling light. Putting it bluntly, their relationship becomes a very unhealthy one. So Zethrid got angry and took out her rage on Ezor sometime after their ship exploded? What sense does that make? So they're floating around in space, and Zethrid is all, grrr! Ezor's like, no! Oh, wait, no, my bad. No. Please. From the glimpse we were given of their bond in Season 7, it was so clear that Zethrid was very caring and encouraging to Ezor. It was so sweet. They were obviously in love. They took out their aggression gleefully on others, not each other. Never each other. So Aksha telling Zethrid Ezor will return if she leaves the rage behind. You know what that sounds like? And I'm about to get extremely real right here. I promise I won't do it again, honey. I just got a little upset. Yeah. You probably know where I'm going with this. And it's not good. It's not good, and that depiction is not the supportive Zethrid and Ezor couple I'd seen in Season 7. I've mentioned it before, but that entire Zethrid volcano scene had me feel like I was watching a 4Kids dub. Honestly. Yeah. Because how could she go from, I'll make you feel the same pain I felt when you lose a lover, to, and by lose a lover, I mean have them walk out on you, grrr! In basically the same sentence. And that's why she needed to point her gun at someone and hold Keith prisoner? Sure, Jan. Wait, no, I get it. Ezor was in the Shadow Realm this whole time. This whole time. Yep. That's where Aksha found her. The Shadow Realm. Speaking of Aksha, I found her close-ups unnecessary. It had me thinking something was being hidden here. And if the main focus was Aksha being Keith's love interest, then why didn't Keith say a word to her? Specifically after Zethrid held him hostage. Not a no or get out of here. He didn't even say anything. But I believe whomever did or redid parts of the scene certainly made a point to have him looking away from Shiro. And again, if the scene was supposed to show Aksha as a love interest, why wasn't his attention on her? He was looking down and away. Also, Zethrid was facing Shiro's direction the whole time. The audio description even says she points her gun at Shiro, of whom was entirely pointless in this scene. So he brought a gun he didn't even use because Veronica, and didn't use his floaty arm at all, which could have worked well for the situation. And more than that, his best friend is in a life or death situation. And all he does is stand there? What? Excuse me? Excuse me? Even if their bond needed to be erased out of the show last minute for whatever reason, that still does not explain the lack of interaction here. There was nothing. Even if they had just met each other in this episode for the first time ever, still, Shiro would have done something, because that is the type of person he is. Instead of, sorry Keith, our relationship was annihilated by powers beyond our control, and to further prove that point, I can't save you. Good luck! That is not the Shiro we know and love. Okay. But you know, what's even funnier than Shiro just standing around? Aksha's awkward screen-filling close-ups, the strange cuts from her, the Zethrid, and that when Zethrid says, I welcome death now that Ezor is gone, her mouth flap instead says, I'm already dead now that Ezor is gone. If you look closely at the end of the volcano scene, and after Keith pulls Zethrid up, in the far shot right after that, you see both Keith and Shiro helping her back on the solid ground. Just them. Veronica, what? Aksha, who? Did she just up and leave after her speeches? Did Veronica's shot somehow scare her away? What happened? Also, notice Shiro and Keith aren't forced 50 feet away from each other here. Gasp! Whoops! As I said in the beginning, these are only a few inconsistencies that stood out to me in this season, and I look for these things not out of malice, but because I respect all that went into this show that made it amazing. Made it amazing. And that's my opinion, given with 3000% Voltron love.